is closed for e-sponsorship. I give the floor to the representative of the Secretariat.
Thank you, Madam President. I should like to announce that since the submission of the draft resolution, and in addition to the delegations listed on the L document, the following countries have also become co-sponsors of A/80/L2/Revision 1. Algeria, Antigua and Barbuda, Botswana, Brazil, Brunei Darussalam, Chile, Cuba, Djibouti, France, Guinea, Guyana, Iceland, Indonesia, Ireland, Jordan, Luxembourg, Malaysia, Maldives, Morocco, Namibia, Nicaragua, Oman, Pakistan, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Slovenia, South Africa, Spain, Turkey, and Uruguay. If any other countries wish to co-sponsor A/80/L2/Revision 1, please signify by pressing the microphone button now. I see Comoros, Yemen, Haiti, Colombia, Angola, Libya, Portugal, Uganda, Madagascar, Nigeria, although Nigeria is already on the L document, Barbados, Sri Lanka. That concludes the additional co-sponsors. Guinea has just pressed a button. Guinea is also a co-sponsor. Thank you, Madam President.
I thank the representative of the Secretariat. I don't see any lists. Oh, yeah, see. Before giving the floor for explanation of vote, before the vote, may I remind delegations that they are strongly urged to limit explanation of vote to 5 minutes, which should in any case not exceed 10 minutes and be made from their seats. I give the floor to the representative of the United States.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, U.S. opposition to this resolution should come as no surprise. The Trump administration has been clear. We must hold the PLO and Palestinian Authority accountable for not complying with their commitments under the Oslo Accords, some of them very basic, and for undermining the prospects for peace. It is clear that the Palestinian Authority and PLO have failed to live up to these commitments and are not credible partners for peace. The Palestinians committed to renounce the use of terrorism and all other acts of violence. However, despite its claims to the contrary, the Palestinian Authority continues to reward and incentivize terror by continuing its pay-for-slay payments to terrorists and their families. This heinous practice must end. The Palestinians must consistently and publicly repudiate terrorism, including the October 7 massacre, without equivocation, and end incitement to terrorism in education, as required by U.S. law and as promised by the PLO. The Palestinian Authority still fails to directly condemn terrorist attacks against Israeli civilians, including the September 8th attack against the Ramot bus stop in Jerusalem that killed 6 Israelis. Indirect condemnation or statements that reject the targeting of Israeli civilians while simultaneously falsely accusing the Israeli government of committing genocide, do not meet a reasonable standard of condemning terrorism. The Palestinian Authority must also end its attempts to internationalize the conflict through lawfare campaigns, including appeals to the ICC and ICJ, and its efforts to bypass negotiations to secure the unilateral recognition of a conjectural Palestinian state. Both steps materially contributed to Hamas's refusal to release hostages and to the breakdown of the Gaza ceasefire talks. The United States remains open to re-engagement that is consistent with our laws, should the PLO and the Palestinian Authority meet their obligations and demonstrably take concrete steps to return to a constructive path of compromise and peaceful coexistence with Israel. Thank you.
I thank the representative of the United States. We have heard the last speaker in explanation of vote before vote. The Assembly will now take a decision on a draft resolution A/80/L2/revision 1 entitled Participation by the State of Palestine during the 80th session. A vote is requested. A recorded vote has been requested. We shall now begin the voting process. Those in favor of draft resolution A/80/L2/revision 1, please signify. Those against? Abstentions?
The Assembly is now voting on draft resolution A/80/L2/revision 1 entitled Participation by the State of Palestine during the 80th session. Will all delegations confirm that the votes are accurately reflected on the screen? The voting has been completed. Please lock the machine.
The result of the vote is as follows. In favor, 145, against 5, abstentions 6. Draft resolution A/80/L2/revision 1 is adopted. Before giving the floor for explanation of vote after the vote, may I remind again delegations that they are strongly urged to limit explanations of vote to 5 minutes, which should in any case not exceed 10 minutes and be made from their seats. I give the floor to the representative of the Russian Federation.
Thank you, Madam President. We supported the draft resolution of the UN General Assembly on the modalities of the participation of the delegation of Palestine during the general debate, as well as high-level events during the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly as an extraordinary and urgent measure, which was adopted under exceptional circumstances. The situation with the denial of granting an entry visa to a head of state, literally on the eve of high-level week, is unprecedented. This approach, undertaken by the host state of the United Nations, flies in the face of the United Nations Headquarters Agreement. The Russian vote in favor cannot be interpreted as support for remote or hybrid working arrangements for the United Nations. We continuously and consistently advocate for normal, in-person working arrangements. The establishment of artificial obstacles for this, including the failure to issue entry visas, is unacceptable. The position of the United Nations General Secretary General on the matter of visas has long ago been set out and is well known. This was enshrined for the first time in 1988 during a meeting of the Committee on Host State Relations. At that point, it was emphasized that the United States has an obligation not to impose any impediments on access to UN headquarters district for all official representatives, barring none, and to grant them visas without charge and as promptly as possible. This obligation is unconditional. There are no exemptions thereto under the UN headquarters agreement. This position was subsequently reiterated on a number of occasions. Most recently, this was reiterated during the meeting of the Committee on Host State Relations, which was held on the 12th of September with a statement from the United Nations Legal Council. The reference to this is contained in the text of the resolution which has just been adopted. Madam President, to conclude, I wish to stress that measures that were stipulated on an exceptional basis to provide for the participation of the delegation of Palestine during the work of the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly by no means releases the host state from its obligation to implement the above-mentioned agreement. We proceed from the premise that all of the requested visas need to be issued. Thank you for your attention.
I thank the representative of the Russian Federation. I give the floor now to the representative of the Islamic Republic of Iran, followed by China.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Madam President, we express our serious concern regarding the decision of the host country to revoke or to refuse visas for the Palestinian delegation intending to attend the 80th United Nations General Assembly High-Level Week. Denying visa of the Palestinian delegation clearly violates Article 105, the General Convention, and the Headquarters Agreement, amongst others. As per relevant international law, the host country not only has the obligation to promptly issue such visas and not to impede transit of states representatives to and from the United Nations meetings, but also has the positive obligation to accord full facilities for the efficient performance of functions of missions and their representatives. Visas shall be issued promptly and irrespective of its bilateral considerations. Madam President, we would like to reaffirm that the present resolution does not in any manner absolve the host country of the United Nations headquarters from its obligations to promptly issue visas. I thank you.
I thank the representative of the Islamic Republic of Iran. I give the floor to the representative of China.
President, China voted in favor of the draft resolution. As an observer state of the UN, Palestine enjoys the right to, I quote, full and effective participation in UN conferences and international conferences and meetings convened under the auspices of the General Assembly, unquote. This was explicitly stipulated in last year's emergency special resolution of the GA. Under the UN headquarters agreement, the host country has an international obligation to issue visas to enable Palestine to participate in UN conferences, a responsibility that cannot be evaded or denied under any pretext. Yet, on the eve of this General Assembly, the United States, in its capacity as host country, announced the denial and revocation of visas for Palestinian officials. This action is unacceptable, and we express our deep concern. The United States have long pursued an unbalanced stance on the Palestinian issue, consistently resisting and obstructing efforts by the GA and the Security Council to promote a ceasefire in Gaza, and shielding and condoning the occupying powers' frequent violations of the international law. Just yesterday, the U.S. once again stood in opposition to the international community and brazenly blocked the Security Council from acting on the Gaza issue. This marks the 8th time the U.S. has abused its veto power since the Gaza conflict erupted in October 2023. And today's results of the vote of the GA has again shows the decision by the U.S. and its isolation by the international community amid the raging violence in Gaza and heightened tension in the West Bank. Palestine is striving tirelessly for peace and seeking assistance for its survival. Amidst these circumstances, the U.S. has denied Palestinian visas and the right to present its case to the United Nations. This is a blatant violation of its international obligations, a ruthless suppression of Palestinian peace efforts, and a callous disregard for the suffering of 2 million people in Gaza. The resolution adopted today provides special arrangements for Palestine to participate in the 80th session of the UNGA, including the general debate. This is a remedy for the unjust treatment Palestine has endured, undertaken out of necessity and with no alternative. The resolution explicitly states that these arrangements do not constitute a precedent and are valid only during the 80th session of the GA. We hope that through these arrangements, Palestine can successfully participate in UN meetings, express its views, and seek strong support. It must be emphasized that this resolution does not exempt the host country from its obligation and responsibility to issue visas. President, the high-level week of the 80th session of the UNGA is fast approaching, with high-level delegations from all member states set to convene in New York. China urges the host country to strictly comply with relevant international laws, including the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, the UN Headquarters Agreement, and Convention on the Privileges and Immunities of the UN. The host country should treat all sovereign states equally, refrain from discriminatory practices, fulfill its obligations regarding visas and exit and entry matters, and ensure the smooth conduct of all activities during the high-level week of the 80th session of the General Assembly. I thank you.
I thank the representative of China. We have heard the last speaker in explanation of vote after the vote. The exercise of the right of reply has been requested. May I remind members that statements in the exercise of the right of reply are limited to 10 minutes for the first intervention and to 5 minutes for the second intervention, and should be made by delegations from their seat. I give the floor to the observer of the observer state of Palestine.
Thank you, Madam President, for giving me the floor to exercise our right. Allow me at the beginning to express our gratitude to the 145 countries that supported our right, the right of the leaders of the State of Palestine, to participate in the meetings and the work of the General Assembly during the UNGA week and always during the work of the United Nations. We express our gratitude for this crystal clear position by the 145 countries addressed to the host country to honor and respect its obligation under the Headquarters Agreement, especially Section 11, which visas should be granted to us. Whether we agree or disagree on certain issues with the host country, that does not give the host country the right or the privilege to abuse its authority by denying us visas to come and to attend physically with all of the colleagues of our leaders to participate in issues that are important to the international community, and including the question of Palestine. We sincerely hope that this abuse to be reversed as quickly as possible, and for the host country to extend visas for our leaders, because we have the right to be with all of you, for our leaders to be with all of you, and to share our thoughts and ideas peacefully, diplomatically, legally, and in a civilized way. Denying us, denying our leaders the opportunity to do so is an abuse of the authority, and it is a punishment for the State of Palestine that should not take place. Of course, our leaders will participate in whatever capacity that is possible to us, but we will not yield an inch for our right to be treated like the rest of you and to receive our visas for our leaders in any meetings that we are invited to participate in, and we will continue doing that. And we hope that that will be the end of this issue. We need to concentrate on the issues of substance and not to be distracted on such issues. But if we are forced to take additional measures and the host country to continue abusing its authority of continuing to denying us of visas, this issue will be revisited. And there are precedents that happened in the past that seriously will consider. Thank you very much.
I thank the observer of the observer state of Palestine. No more requests. The Assembly has thus concluded this stage of its consideration of agenda item 7. The Assembly will resume its consideration of agenda item 35, entitled Question of Palestine. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Saudi Arabia.
Thank you, Madam President. The permanent mission of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to the United Nations proposes the following oral decision. The General Assembly, recalling its Resolution 79/81 of 3 December 2024 and Decision 79/573B of 5 September 2025, decides that His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince and the Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia may deliver a statement by means of video conference or the submission of a pre-recorded statement during the resumed meeting of the High-Level International Conference for the Peaceful Settlement of the Question of Palestine and the implementation of the two-state solution, to be held on 22 September 2025 at heads of state and government level at 3 p.m. in the General Assembly Hall. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Saudi Arabia. The representative of Saudi Arabia has proposed a draft oral decision. The Assembly will now proceed to take action on the draft oral decision. The Assembly will now take a decision on the draft oral decision proposed by the representative of Saudi Arabia. Without a vote, may I take it that the Assembly wishes to adopt the draft oral decision? It is so decided. So, long scrolling. The Assembly has thus concluded this stage of its consideration of agenda item 35. The meeting is adjourned. I wish you all, in these times anyhow, a good weekend.